Hey, we're live. Tuesday, my friends. All right. So, listen. Yes, I'm looking a little puffy because it's early in the morning. That's what you get. But that does not change the quality of the scenario design information you get today because I am revved up, charged. I had my chai with almond breeze. Ah, so good. All right. So, if you have not been here before, my name is Anna Sabramowitz, and I'm a scenario nerd, and basically, my goal is to make all scenario design related things very simple and easy for you to implement so that you can start using this in your work right away. Okay, so a question that I get quite a bit and it's funny, it came up in one of my conversations yesterday when I was talking to a subject matter expert, is that, and, how do you write a scenario that everybody will resonate with? And so usually my answer would be, well, you can create separate learning for separate people and separate branches of people so that if you have, let's say, your training is for managers and maybe the manager's assistant, you would create two separate modules and then have that person go through a separate type of learning. That's one way to do it. And in some cases, if you have the time and resources, yeah, go for it. You really should be having basically almost a profile of the person who you're designing the learning for, all their kind of what their goals are, what their challenges are, who they are, maybe a picture, and then you're designing it for them. But if your audience is larger, which a lot of times that's all we have time to do is design for several types of audience, the default idea a lot of people have is that you should go to the general and then everybody will be able to relate. That's totally wrong. Do not do that. General characters and general scenarios suck, and nobody can see themselves in there. Nobody. The idea is actually to go super detailed. In fact, you want to define the character of your scenario story as much as possible. Now, so I just wanted to, I have a supporting visual for you. It says, generic situations don't work. Juicy detail does. Okay, so here's one way to include this. We had this cultural competence scenario sequence where basically what happened is you would talk to or observe somebody make a decision about a situation. And then based on how they acted and what they said, you basically had to decide where they fell into the cultural competence continuum and what are some of the things that they would need to do to improve their behavior, improve their cultural competence. And when you watch this person, because we were working through trying to place people on this continuum, you had like 5 or 6 different people, and they shared their ideas and opinions and a bit of background. Now, one of the things that we didn't get to really do is develop each person as a character, right? But we wanted to give them some depth, because if you are just placed with a statement and you've never seen that person before, it's really easy to judge. So what we said is we wanted to give these people some complexity. Simple way to do that, we included this little blurb about each person and a little image about things that you would find on their desk. So each person had this little quirky category, and we thought, okay, so nobody's ever just good or bad, or sometimes people say things because they simply don't know there's a different way, right? So what we did is we added details that would humanize them and personalize that situation with and it really took, we did 3 images for each person. So we added things like the guy who was like super gruff and really dismissive of other people, saying, hey, stay away from me. This is, the best way to act. We added things like he had a picture of his dog, so he loves animals. We had a picture of like his mom and him at the age of 3. So those are things that all of a sudden that statement that he said when it was gruff, it wasn't like a flat-faced statement, because nothing is. Scenarios are supposed to share with you that there is context and all these details and nuances you have to remember, right? But there's one simple way that you could add these little nuances if placed strategically with your scenarios that they don't take additional writing. They don't take extra development time. It's just these 3 little details you can add to humanize that person. And so that's just one strategy. So people like detail. People also use detail to create scaffolds. So they might not say, oh, I see myself in that person, but now there's this detail around them that they can now, it's a bigger picture, not just a flat statement of, John said this, what do you think? It's like, John's a person and he's multidimensional. What are some motivations behind him now that you have this small glimpse into the details of his life? So you can add these things. They don't have to be huge, but they have to be specific, because that's what helps us anchor and make these little stories in our mind that help us remember these concepts that you're learning. Because then you can walk away and say, you remember that we talked about that guy, John, he was like really reserved and whatever, but he's the guy that loves dogs and had like a big picture of his mom on his desk. There's a narrative that our mind naturally attaches stories and relevant context and concepts to. So make sure you really leverage that. A lot of times people are scared. They say, oh, why don't I, when I'm designing my stories, do you think that I'm spending too much time giving them like the background of this person and sharing this story about them and their specific motivation? And I'm always like, no, it's actually great, because the more you build that up, the more you build that character up and their specific journey through your scenario, the more I can relate to them, because they sound like a real person versus just some made up, single faceted character that I don't really care about. So make me care, right? Make the situation specific. Even if it's not necessarily something I would do, I'm still seeing that person act in the possibilities that are basically available to them. So make that available to me by being able to observe it. So I hope that was helpful, and you have some ideas, stirring, juicy ideas. If you have ideas about how to add some depth or how you've done it for your projects, put them in the comments. This is definitely something that I think is almost the game changer for scenarios, adding this kind of detail. A lot of people stay away from it, and they're also afraid of making these calls, right? But you really are making up a persona, a specific character. So add those details. Now, if you are working on a scenario design project and you want to take your projects to the next level, or need somebody to actually take away that overwhelm of, oh my gosh, look at all the options available to me. The world is my oyster. Let's bring it down to awesome patterns and repeatable frameworks that I can apply to make sure that my scenario projects are more predictable and agile. Join me for the cohort. It's starting on March 19th. If you want more info, I'll put a link underneath the video so you can get in touch with me and we can talk about your goals, aspirations, and where you're at. And if it's a good fit, then, we'll have a chat. So hopefully you have a wonderful rest of the Tuesday. Really, it's up to you. So decide you are going to have a wonderful Tuesday and just do that. All right. Take care, friend. Bye. See you tomorrow.